Welcome to another episode of From Classroom to Corner Office, Career Talks with Chris, a podcast created to provide hints, tips, and tricks for those entering the workforce, or maybe even those that are already there, to support their career journeys and help position them to reach those career goals by learning from those that have lived it, the good and the bad. Today I'm joined by Sydney, who is currently the Director of Advancement at Wheeling Country Day School, while also dabbling a little bit in real estate, that she'll talk a little bit more about that. So, Sydney, thank you for taking the time to be here today and discuss your career journey.
Yeah, of course. This has been super fun so far. Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you. I know you're relatively, we'll say relatively new in your career journey
For
and
sure.
kind of branching now into a field in an industry area, or at least in roles that you think directly align with the intended path forward.
Yeah.
So let's just talk a little bit about how you got to where you are. So
Yeah.
talk a little bit about what that career journey has looked like from finishing your collegiate education until now.
So, going into my junior year of college, I thought I wanted to switch to business, but I had always been told, don't get a business degree because everybody's in business and there's not enough jobs and you're not going to be guaranteed a job when you graduate. So, literally the day before classes started, I had one of my friends who was in the College of Business, because I was too scared, reach out to their advisor. It was actually Mr. Blackwell, and he was able to switch my major, get me enrolled in classes, and I was a marketing major from there on out, finished up with Ingrid Loy and all of those people. But towards the end of my senior year, I was like, oh my gosh, now I'm a marketing major, and what am I going to do? I really liked my marketing research class, so I liked the numbers and the data part of it. But I knew I didn't really want to move to a big city and work in a cubicle in a building with a million people. And so
Is that the dream for anybody? Just curious.
No, but people do it and they love it. And I knew I really didn't want to be like a social media manager. I enjoy some parts of social media, but not a ton of them. And I think sometimes people automatically correlate marketing to social media. So it's kind of exploring different things. Really liked leadership through like the sorority, SGA, all that stuff. And I interned at West Libs Foundation and got some experience with development there, donor relations, worked with their CRM a little bit. But as you know, and everyone knows, fundraising is a really tough field right now because of so many different things, like the economic landscape, the political landscape, just all the things. So didn't really know what to do after that year was over, graduated, and my sorority's headquarters offers a leadership coach program where you travel around the country for a year after you graduate, and you do programming with the chapters on alumni relations, fundraising, leadership, all different kinds of things. So I did that for a year and really liked it, got a lot of great experience, and kind of realized that I like the alumni relations, fundraising sort of piece of it, philanthropy. And then I took a job with them following that for a year where I oversaw all of the chapters, fundraising and philanthropy efforts, community service, that kind of stuff. And then just recently, I was tired of working from home. Our sorority's headquarters is completely remote, and this job came open at Wheeling Country Day, and I knew I went to Wheeling Country Day, so I already had sort of an affinity to the school, really just believe in the mission, and I think that's something that's really important. If you're going to be in fundraising, you have to be mission-driven, mission-connected to whatever you're raising funds for or building relationships with. So that's kind of what landed me in this role. I love it. It's been wonderful so far. I'm just a couple of months in, but it's been really great.
That's awesome. And I think your journey really demonstrates the value of your network, right? From your enrollment at West Liberty to what you currently do along that path, building that network and having people that you can reach out to, lean on, and inquire about opportunities has really been at every step.
Absolutely. And I think in business, a lot of people say it's all in who you know. Kind of sort of agree, but I have a different perspective. It's all in what connections you can make. So my parents or my aunt or my uncle might know this person, but if I'm not willing to go over and shake his hand or her hand and start a conversation or reach out to them on LinkedIn or ask them to get coffee, it doesn't matter that they know them or told me that they know them or that I know their face. So it's all about the connections, like you said, that you're willing to create or cultivate.
Yeah, I agree that meaningful connections.
Yes.
Right. This isn't, and I grew up in we'll say the proliferation of the use of Facebook, when you had to have a .edu email address to even have a Facebook account, and it was about accumulating friends, whether or not you actually knew that person.
Correct.
So those were connections, but I would not call all of them meaningful connections.
Right.
So I think that's great, great wisdom to think about, for people that are like, oh, growing my network, I have all these connections on LinkedIn. Well, how well do you know anybody?
Right.
Could you actually reach out to them and they would provide some added value to whatever the inquiry is?
I was on my way to 500 plus connections on LinkedIn because in one of our classes, one of the professors had said, like, you're more visible if you have 500 plus. So we were all trying to get, and it had come up at some meeting, and one of the board members had said, I don't accept invitations from anyone unless they send me a note with it. And I was like, you know what? That's very valuable, and I'm going to start doing that. And it has been great because then the people actually know that you're interested in their industry or their career, or that you want them to mentor you, that you're not just connecting to say you have a connection. So that's always been valuable to me.
It's not always a numbers game.
Correct.
So that's good. So you talked a little bit about your college journey.
Mm-hmm.
As you've embarked on the career that you have now, what is one thing that you think college didn't prepare you for, either once you entered the workforce or as you became a little bit more established in the workforce?
College does not prepare you doesn't prepare you how to, or doesn't prepare you to cultivate new relationships. I think that is all built organically. So I learned how to fundraise, how to email people professionally, a little bit of grant writing, a little bit of press release writing, a little bit of social media management. But no one can ever teach you, college or anywhere, how to build a meaningful relationship with an individual or a business or a foundation. That is all on you. And you have to be willing to be vulnerable, be uncomfortable, go out into the community, show up at a happy hour by yourself, go to a networking event, go to the Chamber of Commerce, like library connection thing. I would say that's the biggest thing that college did not prepare me for.
Yeah. It can prepare you to be a lifelong learner, but maybe not how to, like you said, develop those relationships, right? You can get practice in that in college, but the stakes are usually a little bit lower than, especially in your field where you're fundraising, and those relationships and those connections may be the difference between a project being funded and it having to be scrapped.
Correct. Absolutely. And we're in kind of a small market, so everyone knows everyone. And so typically when you meet someone, they know someone who already knows about you, or vice versa. And so that just makes that relationship even more valuable for you to keep and uphold and maintain in a professional manner.
So looking back, or maybe even currently, because I still have these in my life in any number of days in any given week, what would you say is the first wake-up call you had in your career where you realized, I don't know anything? Not just I don't know what I don't know, but I am really rethinking life itself at this moment.
There's been a lot of like, oh gosh, I didn't know I did that. What is that? I think it was when I met with a foundation and they were telling me about donor advised funds. And I had no idea, because we get money from those people and those people talk to us. So I just assumed, like, those people can assign us money however they see fit. And that's not true. It's up to their board of trustees. So if you own a fund called the Christmas McPherson Fund, you can't always just say, like, sure, Sydney, I'll give you 10 grand. It's up to your board, and that's called a donor advised fund. But I'm just sitting in this meeting, like, nodding my head along, of course, after I go and school myself. But it was then that I was like, wow, I didn't know that. But it's been very helpful since. And, it wasn't that big of a deal, but...
Right, and that wake-up call in that particular situation was not the difference between something happening and not happening. It was just one of those moments where you're like, I don't know if I could have even prepared myself at this point, right? Because that was something totally new and foreign to you, and you just heard the word and you had to be like, yes, this is great. I'm glad that we had this
And sometimes in your career and your job or in a meeting, you just have to do that and then go and be like, hey, I need help with this, or can you assist me with understanding this? Asking questions is not bad. No one's going to be mad at you. Your boss typically will help you. they hired you knowing that you might not know everything, so it's fine.
Yeah. And that goes back to something I like to say is, you hire people that are a good fit, as well as somebody that you understand, or at least the best assessment is able to be not just trained, but is also willing to learn. Right? You can train anybody to do
Absolutely.
anything. You can train anybody to do anything, but you can train people to understand, but they have to then apply that. And
Absolutely.
right, for you, you got into a room and you were trained on the basics, but you
Mhm.
had to apply and then go forth and figure something else out after that about how to address the issue if it would have come up, right?
Mhm.
And you were prepared for the next meeting.
And this career is constant pivoting. It might be like I walk into work one day and I might be doing something, and the next day it might be something totally different because there's just a bunch of different irons in the fire with advancement or development.
Yeah. So I think you've already kind of highlighted one skill that either you had or developed that accelerated your career with that ability to build relationships.
Mm-hmm.
What's another skill or some skills that you will say quickly developed as you entered the workforce or as you've progressed your career that have been useful and helpful and have been have provided you with the ability to succeed?
I would say grant writing. In my last job, I had to assist with writing one grant, and then I assisted with giving. So we would write a grant to our foundation. They would give our department the money, and then I would be in charge of dispersing the money to the groups, and they would have to fill out an application and a report. But that was really the only grant writing experience I had had. And then I jumped into this role, and no one is sitting down saying, Sydney, this is how you do this. And I would never expect someone to do that. I was willing to figure it out. And we were chatting before this, a lot of the place that we're in now is we've got proposals and we're pretty in a groove with foundation. So it's adjusting things, tweaking things, bringing them up to speed. But grant writing is a skill that you have to have an advancement. And I've been able to just use the knowledge of the people on my team and past proposals and documents and reports to kind of figure out how to write grant proposals and letters of intention, all those things.
Yeah, grant writing. Hey, people that are skilled at that, and we talked about it, are invaluable, right? You
There's a
cannot
lot
put a
of
price.
great tools now too.
Oh, tools. Speaking of the tools that people can
Yeah.
use for the job, in your estimation, how do you envision artificial intelligence and the tools that have been developed because of the advances in AI transforming the workforce and your industry within the next 5-ish years?
We, as an advancement team, use AI every single day, typically just for writing. And it's not writing the whole thing for us. We're always checking it. It's just making the language more eloquent. But I think there are pieces of our jobs that AI is going to massively streamline in the next 5 years, and it's going to be super beneficial. We actually just invested in a grant search engine platform sort of thing, and it has an AI generator built inside that will help you write letters of intent. But it's not just a writer. It finds foundations that you should ask money for, and it tells you how much you should ask for based on all different kinds of factors. And to me, that's huge because, like I said before, we're in a very small market in Wheeling, and so we have to find foundations in Pennsylvania, Ohio, New York that don't have a geographic restriction, and a lot of family foundations do. But systems like this and AI engines like this can find those things without me spending 2 or 3 days going through someone else's records to find another grant that we could apply for. So, I mean, I think it's going to greatly enhance and streamline what we do. In real estate, AI can do almost anything. Like, there are systems where I can put in all of the information about a house and it will do up all the marketing pieces for me. It will take an inspection report, digest it, and tell me how I can summarize that for a client, which is very beneficial because those are typically like 80 pages long. Same thing with an appraisal. It also is helping with communication. Lots of the CRM tools that we use will say, I'll text these 5 people that you need to follow up with. And so it will say, hi, I'm so and so. Like, I can name my AI bot or chat, whoever. It will say, I'm speaking for Sydney. She's following up about X. And I know that's not as personal as me texting or calling you, but for some things, that's highly beneficial because I maybe like didn't need to follow up with you. It was just a touch point for me to keep you active in my sphere of influence. So if AI is doing that for me, that's just a bigger help on my end, and it's streamlining what I can do, and it's maximizing by tenfold the amount of customers or people that I can connect with in a day or in a week or in a month.
Yeah, 100%. So thinking through your experiences and I mean just the way that these tools have just accelerated how the type of work and how well they can do certain work. What would you recommend for whether these are college students that are maybe in the waning years of their academic careers or people that are in the workforce and are just trying to figure out how to use these tools? What would you recommend they do to become a little bit more proficient and not get caught in the pitfalls of, we'll say, irresponsible or potentially unethical use?
Yeah. I think like when I'm using it, I'm writing something and then I'm putting it in there. So I'm not just saying, write me a professional email about X. I'm getting very detailed and then putting it in something like ChatGPT. I've also been reading lately that you shouldn't give it a lot of details about your business or establishment because you want it to find the most relevant information online. And that's a great way for you to figure out that you might have outdated information online or on your website. So there's two parts to that. I think I don't find it unethical to use it to write. I think there could be, I mean, I guess you could use it in an unethical manner if you're asking it to write essays or things for you. But if you're using it in the right way, you're letting it write and then you're still going back and editing. Because, like I said, I use it every day, but every day I also edit sentences because it will use words in the wrong tense, or it's famous for using those really long dashes that just scream, I use ChatGPT to write this. And so going back and kind of maybe not taking all of them out, but situating them in a more appropriate way, spacing things out. I think you just have to be diligent about editing it and sometimes fact checking it. I took a class once with a professor who said, I encourage you all to use this. I wish people would use it more, but never trust it. And she knew a lot about, I think, the moon phases. And she was like, I was just trying to test it out. And I asked it a question I knew the answer to, and it gave me the wrong answer. So it's not perfect and it's not the end all be all, but it can certainly help us with a lot of things in business.
Right. I mean, it is in what they are called. They are called tools for a reason.
Correct.
Right? They're not expected to give you the best outcome in the world. It's supposed to be a point that you can either start from or like you do, here's some detailed information, build upon this, and then you review it and make your appropriate edits, right? So it's perfect. And those long dashes, just so you know, it took me probably 10 to 15 minutes to replicate that in a Word document.
How do you?
I did it once and I couldn't tell you. I almost think it was like some combination and then an auto format function. Like I had to 3 dashes plus a symbol and it recreated it somehow. So yes, that is a dead giveaway for the academic folks.
And some people, there are a lot of real estate agents that use it for social media captions. And if you copy and paste straight from your mobile device, it puts stars on either side of the caption. And oftentimes people will forget to delete those and then you can tell. So just be careful when you copy and paste.
I think we would put that in the irresponsible use, not necessarily unethical, but irresponsible, right? Correct. Because people then know it is not your original work, potentially in any way.
Absolutely.
Good. So in your career thus far, what do you think has helped you stand out to potential employers through your application materials, whether that's resume, cover letter, or a portfolio that you've had to share, right? Because that's something that a lot of people either entering the workforce, looking for career shifts, sometimes get hung up on is how do I stand out in this sea of other resumes and people that are applying that may have more education than me, may have similar experiences, but more, we'll say, focused towards the role that they're applying to. So what are some ways that you think you've helped yourself stand out with the experiences you have had?
I think it was getting involved outside the classroom in college, be that sorority, so Greek life, and I am 100% aware that that's not for everyone, but you get the leadership experience that you want out of that, the communication skills, the public speaking skills, the relationship skills, and then joining other things like student government. There's 100,000 different leadership clubs now you could join. There's a business honor society, there's a marketing club. Find your niche and pick something outside of the classroom to be involved in. I think I probably picked too many things. I could have done less and just done, committed to each of them a little bit more. But in job interviews, I've been asked more about those things than previous jobs. So of course I still have, I worked at Bath and Body Works for a long time, so that's listed on there as sales, and I talk about the tangible skills I've used that relate to sales, because fundraising kind of is sales. But they never ask about that. They'll ask about being on the board or serving on a committee, or what was that presentation like, or they'll ask about sorority membership because maybe someone on the committee is in that club or whatever too. So I think it's finding things to become involved in outside of the classroom, and also having those other job experiences and internships. People also ask about my foundation intern experience, and while I went there 2 days a week for a couple of hours, it still was extremely valuable, and the way that I can talk about that on a resume, off of the resume, is extremely valuable. I think taking off your graduation year is also important, because then people don't assume that you're young. For those of us who graduated recently or are getting ready to graduate, just put that whatever your degree is going to be or your major is and where you went. And sometimes you don't even have to put where you went if you don't want to. I know sometimes people say that matters. I disagree, because I went to a small school and I have a great job, but that's kind of a personal preference thing. I think adding things to your resume that are skills outside of a job are important too. So I, in my leadership coach role, took the Clifton Strengths exam thing and did programming on it. So I would list my top 5 strengths, and then in the bullet points under each job on my resume, I would weave in those strengths. And then when I answered interview questions, I would use those, because I think it's important when you're talking about your experience at a job or an internship or any kind of experience, that you're not just saying, I did this. It's important to say what you gained from doing that action or that job or that thing.
What that experience added value to,
right,
for you as a candidate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just to say you were involved doesn't really paint a picture of
Correct.
what you can do, right? You can be involved in every club in the world and just be a general member that sits in the back and says nothing, does nothing, and just, says I'm in the group. So, no, I agree. So for you, and I'm curious, whenever you craft your own personal resume or any of those other application materials, do you use any specific format, or is it situational? And by format, I mean, are you using bullet points? Or are you using more paragraph descriptors, right? Because different people have different preferences, and you have no idea what the hiring manager's preferences are going to be.
Correct. I have a standard. I did it in Canva because I'm in marketing, so that's not weird to make it a little pretty. But I have a pretty version that I would brand to the company that I was applying for, and then I had a very plain version because some companies think that's terrible if you make it bright and pretty. And so it was black and white and normal font. But I always do a professional summary at the top, which is like a paragraph, but it actually turned out to be a really long sentence. And then all of my job experience is one line with bullet points underneath. And I've always heard and been told that it should fit all on one page. It is currently all on one page, but it's very small. So I think at some point it's going to have to be a front and back or something. But I can do some rearranging. But on the left side, I've got skills and strengths and things like PowerPoint, Excel, all that sort of stuff, just because that's important for people to know too. I think we'd be surprised how many people can't use Excel who are business majors who are applying for jobs. But yeah, I think keeping it with bullet points is valuable, because I don't truly believe that a hiring manager is reading the whole thing. They're either putting it through a system that's pulling out keywords, or they're just reading your cover letter and noticing on your resume that you qualify so that they can call you for an interview or not.
And that's important, having those 2 different copies. So, in my day job, I teach some classes, and one of them is a professional development class that is intended to support students in putting those polishing touches as they're about to go to whatever that next step is, whether that's workforce, grad school. And I state pretty much exactly what you said. You need to have that boring, bland resume because there are enough people out there that that's what they want to see.
Right.
And additionally, applicant tracking systems may not necessarily pick up all the text boxes and all the frilly things that may be on a Canva or just another like general template. So I encourage students to have both. And my suggestion is usually, unless you know that a person is physically going to be looking at that resume, more likely than not, you want to use the boring, bland one when you initially submit.
Mhm.
And then if you get called in for an interview or any follow-up, bring that nice looking one that's going to be recognizable and people can tie it back to your face and what you said, and you become memorable and you stand out and blah, blah, blah.
Absolutely. I'm going to say something about resumes. Totally escaped my brain.
Every day I live this life. Things
That was
escape my brain.
important too, I thought, or relevant.
Formatting, bullet points, professional summaries, applicant tracking systems, boring resumes.
Oh,
There we
that
go.
is one thing that I think AI is helpful for. If you go to the job or the company's website, you're pulling out like mission, vision, their values, what they do, and then you're building that into your resume. So oftentimes I would take my resume, pull out the mission, vision, values, all that stuff from the company, and then use their words interchangeably with mine where things matched up. So if one of my strengths was individualization, maybe theirs was specialized support. So I'm tying that in so that if they are running it through an electronic system, or if they're just a person, they're more apt to be attracted to those words because they live them every day.
Right. You hope, right? A strong culture, those
Yeah.
words will resonate and will
Right.
hopefully be something they pick up on, or at least subconsciously feel attached to you because you're using them.
Absolutely.
So, all great. So, right, well, this isn't necessarily a negative, but it could be perceived as such. What would you say is the least valuable? Sometimes I say worst career advice you ever received,
Mhm.
but I think it's better to say least valuable because there's probably value in everything you've ever been told. It's just whether or not it actually helped you at that time.
I think it might be something along the lines of that it's all in who you know.
Okay.
Because I don't believe that it's all in who you know. I think, like I was saying before, it's all about who you're willing to build a connection or a relationship with. Like, I know a whole lot of people, but I'm not going to walk up to someone I haven't talked to in 10 years and, I mean, now I would because that's my job, but I think that might be the worst.
No, that's good. Yeah.
And I think because people assume you're given a job because you know someone, or you're put in this position because you knew someone, or your colleague knew someone, or your parents knew someone. I don't believe that's how you elevate your career.
That can help get you in a room, but you then have to shine.
Yeah, you have to hold your own in the room. You might be given a seat at the table, but you have to be a part of the conversation.
Right. All right, Sydney. Well, this has all been great. Do you have any final words of wisdom that you think would be helpful or that you wish to share with to-be graduates, those entering the workforce, or anyone just searching for the way to best position themselves for that next step in their career?
I would just say take advantage of all of the experiential things that you can do. So, be it internships, like capstone projects, sort of things, job experiences, even if it's like a 6-week thing and you don't make a lot of money, but it's a great experience for your career. Do it. I always felt like I got more out of those sort of things than lectures and readings and tests. Unfortunately, maybe. But I think in business, it's the experiential stuff that really helps you to get acclimated with the business world or the marketing world or the finance world, whatever your path is, that really starts you on the right foot when you jump into your career. I think people who maybe don't have an internship or have a job while in college, or just kind of stay very straight and narrow and to the books, they're highly intelligent, but a little bit more reserved and struggle a little bit more when they jump into the career fields, because it is a lot of on the spot learning and jumping into projects and just kind of building relationships to make your way through.
No, that's great. You heard it here first. Maybe not first, but you heard it here again to support this, everyone. Experiential learning, whether those are clubs, organizations, internships, micro internships, small project work, group project work in the classroom, outside the classroom, whatever it may be, take advantage of it all. So thank you again, Sydney. It's been great to listen to where you're at right now in your career and, kind of what has helped you build up to this. I know that everyone will be more than interested to learn what happens next in this
Me
career.
too.
You too, right? We're always interested. I think I'm interested in everybody's career journey.
Me too.
Even my own. Who knows? 5, 10 years. What could be?
Right. Kids at school will talk about their careers or what they want to be when they grow up. And I always say, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. And they're so small, they really don't understand that. But it's true. I don't know. I mean, I love where I'm at right now, but who knows where life will take me.
All right, everyone. Make sure that you catch us in the next episode of From Classroom to Corner Office, Career Talks with Chris.